for joining us.
Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to meet you guys and meet you.
Yes, it's nice to meet you. Will you tell people a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how you got into the mortgage industry?
I am a commercial mortgage broker, one of the few female commercial mortgage brokers. There are commercial female realtors and bankers, but not really very many in my shoes. I kind of, as Julie mentioned, I fell into the mortgage business. I was a creative person for many years. I was a professional dancer, and then I was a makeup artist and a wardrobe stylist. And I ended up falling into this because I thought, well, maybe I'll get a real estate license. My husband's a writer. He had sold the script, and he was we had our own photo studio. He took pictures, and I did makeup. And I thought, well, I want to have something else to do. I had kids too at that point. And so I got my real estate license, and we happened to take pictures of a gentleman who had his own wholesale subprime company, which of course back then, subprime. So, which I guess is not QM now, sort of. I'm not sure, but I think it's kind of natural. And he said, hey, you want to come work for me? And I was thinking about being a realtor, and I went, oh, yeah. He said, I'll teach you. I said, fine. So I started learning about subprime and going around and meeting other brokers, residential brokers, and selling our product. And I met a gentleman who I was pretty pushy. I was out there. I didn't take no for an answer, and he liked me a lot and asked if I wanted to come to work for him, which I did. And it was kind of an interesting experience. It was closer to home for me, his office, and he did a lot of commercial, although he had agents in there that did the residential. And so I had already had my feet wet, and so I learned more about residential, but I kind of was interested in commercial because I saw him bringing in big checks, and I saw him working with, higher powered clients, bigger deals. And my desk was right outside his office. He had a big glass enclosed office, but he used to yell a lot. And he was always yelling at somebody. He was always, on the phone giving somebody grief, demanding things all the time. And I thought, is that really the best way to get things done? And I said, hey, Richard, did you teach me about commercial? I really like to do commercial. And he was, no. You don't want to do commercial. They don't want to listen to women. It's not a woman's field. It's a man's field. And they're going to want to talk to the boss. And I went, well, really? He said, really? He said, it's too complicated. There's all these reports. You've got to do all these analyses. You don't want to do that. And he continued to discourage me. But I listened a lot. And I listened to his conversations. And I listened to what he did. And I kept bugging him about it. I said, look, I really want to learn it. So gradually he taught me a few things here and there. But he said, look, they're going to just want to talk to me. So, if you initiate some deals, I'll take over. And no, he did. And, and at that time, my daughter was born. And so I had a baby in a little thing. I'd take it to the office, set her down on the desk. And I was like, okay, after a while, and also when you work for a company like that, you give up a good portion of commission. And I really felt that he was taking a little too much of all my hard work. Because if I'm going to work that hard, I want to make the money I deserve, right? Liz, I know you feel that way, right?
Right.
And sometimes you go into a deal and you don't know how hard it's going to be. And it ends up being, you work hours and hours and hours for what you make. Hours and hours and hours. Mm-hmm. And so I finally decided, I think, I got to start looking around. And I happened to wander into the little local market here in Burbank. And I was at the meat counter, and there was a guy next to me, a young guy, and we were talking. He asked me what I did. And I said, well, I'm a mortgage broker, but I'm kind of, I'm commercial. I'm doing more commercial now. And he goes, oh, really? He said, my partner and I have a big mortgage company here, and we're looking for somebody to open the commercial division. Are you interested? And I went, yeah, I was a little intimidated by it, but I thought, I've got to just jump in with 2 feet. You have to sometimes take a chance. And I said, sure, that would be great. He said, hey, here's my card, call me, let's set a meeting up, come on over. And I did. And they were like the biggest mortgage company in Burbank at that point. And it's called First Security Lending. And 2 young guys started it right out of high school. And it was like just an amazing company. And they had a lot of agents. And he set me up. I had a really nice office, and all the residential agents would come to me with and whenever they had, commercial deals. And at that point, I'd started to build up clientele because, in commercial, people continue to do deals because they have portfolios. So if you do a good job, they're going to come back and they're going to call you again and they're going to refer their friends. And so I was kind of slowly building up clients. And it was a really great atmosphere there. It was just a real company place. And I really, really got my feet really dug in, learning, and they were very fair with me. And, it was a great place. And it kind of expanded when we had the big '08 crash. They moved their offices and downsized a little and merged with another company called Augusta Financial. And then we downsized again, but continued to operate. And I continued to run the commercial division. The two guys split up and moved, but Augusta stayed there and I continued to run their commercial division. And finally they decided to close the Burbank office, and I knew they were doing that, and I went, I'm getting my broker's license, that's it. I'll open my own company. I'm going to give it a shot. And I did. And so that's kind of.
There's so many gems in there, isn't there?
My God. That's a good story.
Well, you have to.
Here we go.
You
The great part is amazing. I mean, the fact that you were like, well, let's try it. Never did that before. I want to do this. On so many levels throughout your career, your journey through commercial lending, you were what people would call fearless. I doubt there was lack of fear there, but you behaved fearlessly, and that's awesome. And I think that a lot of women are hesitant to jump into things they don't know about completely. And I love that story. I think that's a great lesson for everybody.
Yeah, no, you have to take the challenge. You have to meet it head on, and you just can't be afraid. And also, you can't be afraid to ask for help. I would talk to some of my bankers, and again, majority of them are male. But if I needed help or I didn't understand something, I never hesitated to ask them.
Yeah.
And also, the thing is, if they couldn't do a deal, and not every deal is for every lender, and when you dig into this, you really have to learn that, and always make sure you've sent your deal out to more than one lender, and take a look at what they're doing and what they can do. And not every loan is for every lender. And I never hesitated to ask a lender if he couldn't do a deal. Do you have anybody you'd suggest? Who do you think would be good for this? Who could do this? Because then you meet other lenders and you get to learn. Checking on my puppy, I'm sorry.
That's okay, mine's behind me.
I heard it there.
Yeah. No,
I think that's such an important thing, like this idea of, one of the questions we've been asking everybody is, how have you been brave as a producer and asked for what you need? And I think you just hit the nail on the head, like this idea of never hesitating to ask for help. What do you wish you would have known in the beginning of your career that nobody shared with you?
That the picture was painted for me that it was too difficult for me, that it was too complicated, and it was a men's world and they weren't going to want to talk to a woman. And I think if somebody had said to me, don't listen to him, he's, you can do anything you want to do, and just because you're a woman, you can't be afraid to talk to men in high position, because a lot of these guys have huge net worths, these people that are looking for these loans. And don't be afraid to talk with them. They will appreciate that. But talk to them from a woman's point of view, a little more nurturing, a little more understanding of them as a person. It's not all about dollars and cents in their big buildings, but a little bit more about, hey, how's everything with you today? You doing okay? I think that a woman has a little more of that quality than men, and they're a little bit more about get down to business. And I think that's important because you don't want to meander. But I think also they appreciate that. It's a little bit more of a touch that women have. I don't know, Liz, if you find that, or Missy in your line of work, but I think that men appreciate that sometimes. They need that.
I think,
and maybe they're not getting it at home.
No,
I don't know.
I think everybody needs it, whether it's first-time home buyers, existing investment buyers, and I've said this all along. I don't care how many investment homes you have. If you're buying another one, you still have emotions involved in that.
Hold on 1 minute. What are you eating? No. Go. No no.
I'm just grateful the kittens aren't in my office today.
He just grabbed something he's supposed to have. Please forgive me. He's a little guy. No, you can't have. No, Missy, you've got your challenges with yours, and mine are older.
Yeah.
So
I actually think, Elizabeth, this leads to a really great question that, you know, you were talking about how women, we just bring something different to the table. Why do you think there's so few women in commercial lending?
I think, you know, again, I think it's intimidating. You know, it's commercial has a lot more moving parts. Residential, you know, it's very standardized. You know, you have your TRID and you have your this, that. It's very standard. And then you do have portfolio product. It's a little more flexible. Now non-QM has come back. But it's a little more, you know, it's a little more standardized. Commercial is not only about getting the picture of the borrower, but really more than anything, getting the picture of the property. And the property and the loan will be dictated by what the property can, what debt can that property service, and projections, and, you know, SBA and owner user loans is a whole other side of commercial. And then there's construction loans, which have so many puzzle pieces I can't tell you, and I'm doing several right now, and I'm about to fund one. So there's just, and I've learned so much as I've gone along. I mean, it's just unbelievable, the magnitude of things that you learn and can continue to learn. Residential, again, you know, it changes, but it's within a certain box.
Would you say that with residential loans, because it's aimed at the average person, there's more predictability for outcomes, there's more fail-safes and protections for the borrower, versus commercial, you're supposed to be considered a little more savvy,
Yes.
and
Yes.
things can just not happen for no apparent reason. That's been my impression of commercial lending, right? Like the investors are like, yeah, we're just not feeling this one. The numbers look okay, but we're not excited about it. Is that?
I don't like the neighborhood, even though they've known where the neighborhood is from the beginning. Yeah, I mean, you know, the borrowers is a little thin on cash. You know, it's not the 6 months PITI or 3 months PITI. It's more like, you know, he only has, you know, $55,000 in the bank, and, you know, the loan is $5 million. We're kind of looking for him to have a little more than that, you know, like $500,000. So sometimes you have to, like, compensating factors, and what can I do, and how can you make this work? And then can I look at his portfolio? Well, maybe I need to pull some money out of another property, put it in his account, and then I can get the deal done. So there's a lot more variables. You know, residential follows a pretty particular, you know, it's pretty specific. You kind of know. And so I think that a lot of people feel, and women get intimidated by that. And again, I think I'm dealing with a woman now that's doing building 3 condos. She's probably the first, except for, and then I'm dealing with also somebody that Julie referred me to, that is a homeopathic doctor up in Portland, and she's buying her own building. Those people are probably 2 of the few women that are actually investors that I've dealt with for a while. A lot more in terms of women are owner user type. They're doctors or lawyers, dentists. I'll deal with them on buying their own buildings, but for the most part, investment properties, big shopping centers, you know, 150 unit apartment building, a couple of Walgreens, things like that, big, you know, big projects like that. Typically it's all male driven. So I'm dealing with that all the time. And, you know, they can be demeaning. They can be, you know, they can try and make you feel inadequate, but I don't want that. No, I don't put up with it. I won't. I will walk from a deal. No, you cannot. That's another thing I would tell you. Do not be afraid to walk away from a deal if somebody is unreasonable.
So let's talk about this real quick. We're totally off script, by the way, which
Go for it.
I don't think you mind. How do you deal with men when they're demeaning? When you're in a transaction with them and you're really trying to get to business and get things solved, and somebody comes out, you give me an example of how you deal with it.
Basically, I tell them I've been in business 28 years. I know what I'm doing. I can look at your deal and analyze it, and I will let you know what I can do. And I have plenty of sources and places and people that I've established long-time relationships with. I need to know if, I really try and get them to see who I am and where I'm coming from. And generally they call me, they've been referred to me. They don't, it's very seldom that they cold call. It's usually my, an appraiser told me to call you, a banker told me he couldn't do my deal, he told me to call you, my friend Joe just closed a loan with you. So, but they're not used to working with women so much. They're used to women being in the home. They're taking care of their kids. They're putting their dinner on the table. Maybe they're, yoga teacher. They're doing something that is what they consider more female oriented. So sometimes they're a little hesitant. And, if I don't give them what they think they deserve, because a lot of times guys go, I'm worth, 20 million bucks and, you should be able to get me a loan. And it isn't always the case. It just isn't always the case. And, if they're writing everything off on their taxes and they're not showing me any income, I'm sorry, we got to go private money. I'm not private money. I shouldn't have to go private money. I'm bankable. Well, then you better start showing more income on your taxes. I mean, sometimes they don't want to hear it. And I have to tell them, look, if you don't believe me, call other people, but they're going to tell you the same thing. So, what can we do to get you into a deal that you feel you're worth? Because a lot of times you get people, guys like that particularly, and they, I need to look at, okay, I might be able to do this, but I only have a couple lenders that won't require your taxes. That's it. And they'll have to, be able to bite the bullet on that, or we'll have to go private money. And so it's, it's showing them your intelligence, I think. And if they don't like it, then I just say, fine, find someone else, do your own. I'm not really afraid to tell someone to go somewhere else. I think that some people are too hungry and they're too concerned that, oh, they're going to get bad mouth. No, hey, this doesn't work for you, go somewhere else. Because, I demand to be respected. And I think you have to demand respect.
Okay.
So.
I like that answer.
Love it.
Yay.
What is your favorite negotiation secret?
Don't undervalue yourself, price yourself for what you're worth, and give yourself wiggle room. So if you have to come down a little bit in what you're doing, see, residential, you can price all day long and no cost loan, right? All day long. Commercial's not the same. You can't. So you have to have, and I always have a fee agreement signed up front. A non-circumvention fee agreement, hold harmless, always. Make sure people are, tell them up front what you're going to charge them, what the cost is going to be to the best of your ability. Generally I can get deals at par from my lenders. Occasionally a rebate program on a multifamily, but not very often. And most of these guys want the lowest rate, so I don't price that way. And, and then you have, and always price yourself to what you feel is fair, and you have wiggle room. And make sure they sign your fee agreement. And negotiating tool, I think also creative ways to structure a deal. If a deal is, if there's going to be trouble, try and find out everything you can about what the borrower wants. What kind of loan does he want? Does he want non-recourse? Does he want no prepay? Is he flipping this property? How long is he keeping it? Be able to ask all those important questions and negotiate from that. And, tell them you can get them the very best deal out there. If you feel you can. And also, I'm always very transparent. If I feel like it's going to be difficult, I will not hesitate. I think you're much better off letting them know going in, because then they're not going to come back and get angry at you. They're not going to come back and have paid for an appraisal and everything, and the deal's going to fall apart. You tell them up front, these are my concerns, just like you would residentially. These are my concerns,
What is your advice if a woman wanted to go in the commercial side of things? Where would they start at?
I think if they're interested in commercial, I think either going to work at a bank in a commercial division and learning from the loan officers there, maybe as an assistant, that would be able to give them a lot of hands-on and also seeing what's going on, or work for a commercial, if you can find one, a commercial mortgage broker. So it's not that common, But I mean, I think those are the better places, because in a commercial division at a bank, you're going to learn a lot and you can kind of watch for what they're doing. You know, mortgage broker is a little different because you're going to, I work with so many different lending sources. I work with credit unions. I work with all kinds of banks. I work with, oh, just a minute. What are you eating?
Sounds like she has my old dog.
No, Jesse. No.
I saw the
I'm going to give him to my husband. Robert, take the dog. I think that one of the things somebody would learn working for a female commercial mortgage broker is, you know, they get a perspective on a lot of different lending sources. And I do also a lot of private money. I just did a $25 million private money loan for a debt service loan for a $100 million house selling in Bel Air. You have to look. And this was a lender I'd never worked with before. But I partnered up with another broker that I've known for years. And, you know, we tossed around a lot of different ideas and we came up with a great deal. And, you know, we had to close it very quickly. I think you can't also, I think that you get a different perspective if you work as in an office with another commercial mortgage broker. And a bank, you're going to get some perspective, but only from that particular lender and what they do.
Right.
So you don't get as much, but you got to hunt for the commercial mortgage broker. They're not out there on every corner. I don't, again, I have to be honest. I know commercial female realtors that sell commercial property. I know female bankers, but I don't know anybody else in my field. Right. I know plenty of men. And actually right now, you know, it's an interesting time because I'm getting a lot of referrals from banks and from commercial men at banks referring deals because their banks shut down or they're not doing any lending right now or they've changed personnel. So anyway.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I would say to somebody if they want to get into this, you know, and don't be afraid. Don't let it intimidate you. Don't be afraid to learn and don't be afraid to ask questions wherever you are.
Very good. Do you have a favorite negotiating secret?
We already did that.
Oh, we did. Sorry.
Where were you?
The cat, the dog.
Don't undervalue yourself was her number one thing. What is one empowering idea you want to share with other women who want to get into the field?
Be true to yourself. You know, don't take no for an answer. Don't be afraid to ask questions and value yourself. Demand what you think you deserve. Don't sit and don't take, you know, don't let somebody put you down and tell you don't know what you're doing. Show them that you do. I mean, I think women tend to be subservient sometimes, especially when they're in a male-dominated field. And, you know, even when I'm dealing with guys that have been in banking for years, you know, I can share ideas with them and they'll go, wow, I never thought about that. And that makes me feel good. That makes me feel like, yeah, I do have a lot to offer. And I think you can never underestimate yourself. Don't underestimate yourself, you know, and also don't ever be afraid to strike out on your own. I went ahead and got my broker's license and opened my own company. And I did have a client base, but you know, you always have to reach out and take advantage of every situation. If I do a deal and it's a purchase money deal and I'm representing the buyer, I'm working with the buyer, you know, to get him the loan. Take advantage of getting to know the realtors on the sell side, show them how good you are at what you do, because all of a sudden you got another referral source.
Yep.
So always look for referral sources. That will empower you. The more people you have that can refer business to you and that see how good you are at what you do, you know, I think you take advantage of every situation. I do.
Good stuff.
And you know, you guys seem very powerful. And Liz, I know you've been in the business for a while and, you know, you run into challenges. I mean, it's amazing to me, the number of things that have cropped up. And another thing that I'll add in here too is, and I think Liz, you probably are familiar with this, always make sure as you're going to a close, make sure all your I's are dotted and T's are crossed, because whatever can happen will happen at a close. And so no matter what it is, if it's an insurance issue, if it's a title issue, anything like that, try and make sure you've gotten all of that handled prior to close. Occasionally you can't, something pops up that you just don't expect. But try and make sure that you try and avoid those pitfalls at the end. Because those are things that will delay your close, and if it's a purchase, people will get all up in arms and nervous and anxious, and you just got to handle them. You got to keep cool, calm, and collected, and just do whatever you can and calm your client down and say, hey, you know what? I know this is crazy now. Don't worry, we'll take care of it. Because people get very nervous at closes.
They do. It doesn't matter. We were talking about that earlier when we had the dog issue. That everybody's emotional in their transaction. I've heard so often that this is just business. Rarely is it just business with your buyer or your seller. And if you're not tuned into those emotions, which I think we do great as women, and you don't pick up on that, then that can be your shortfall. So people remember how you left them feeling. And that's, again, something we do pretty well. So.
And also another thing that's very interesting, I learned something new from every deal, whether it is regarding a property, whether it's regarding an escrow issue, a bank issue, the client issue. I learned something new every day on every deal. And I think that's really important. And to take that into your next deal with you. I mean, on that big deal I mentioned to you, they funded that loan and they had to unfund it for a day and refund it because of a mechanics lien indemnity that the lender insisted they didn't need, even though I discussed it with them. And they had told me, no, they don't. And all of a sudden their legal counsel said, oh, we need a mechanics lien indemnity. And then we have to do a whole bunch of work. So they had to unfund the loan for a day. We had to take care of all of it and then refund it. Wow. It was, and even though it was something I had brought up and I had talked with them about, and they insisted no. Mm-hmm. And title all of a sudden came back and they did a date down and they changed the title. And the lender, legal counsel said, oh, no, we need a mechanics lien indemnity now. I don't know why they changed things in their title. Have no idea. No. Because it was a very newly built house. So, and they never filed a notice of completion back 4 months ago when they finished it. That one, I didn't involve them.
You can't.
But they didn't record a notice of completion, which would have given us 3 months. There would have been 3 months that went by that mechanics liens could have been recorded, and that would have passed. So there never would have been an issue.
Well,
so,
control it all, right? I mean, so it's your job to keep it calm and pull it back together.
Yeah, I had to. Mm-hmm. I had to. And come up with any suggestions you could have that might make it work, to the best of your ability. But we got it handled, but it was not, there was some very tense minutes in there where people were very nervous. So
that's why I think we need more women in commercial lending. I just think it would be so amazing.
Well, men yell. Again, men will have a tendency to yell and go off in their screaming mode. And I think women can be a little bit more, again.
You think men are emotional? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, they do. They do. Again, that first guy that I worked for, I was just astounded. I would sit there and go, what is he yelling at? And he'd storm around the office after that.
This emotional
find out and I go,
garbage, right? Yeah. The emotional woman story is garbage, right? Like there's very few men that have worked for me or I've worked for that haven't been emotional themselves. So I think it's time we just get away from that old narrative.
Recognize that men are just as emotional as
they are.
And men will say about women, oh, it's that time of month. She's like going off the deep end, and she's, no, I'm sorry. No, don't give me that. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Garbage.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Look, it was a pleasure. It was really great to talk to you guys. I really, really appreciate it.
Hang tight after the recording because I have a question for you.
Okay, great. And then Liz, I'd love to talk with you more too. And don't be afraid of branching out to commercial. Seriously, you can do it.
Okay then.
No, you really can. I mean, it's a different animal and it has a lot more moving parts, but it's a good payday and it's a good reward, and people really appreciate it. And you can pick up a lot of good business that way. So if you ever have any questions, you can always call me.
Good to know. Thank you so much, Elizabeth.